Hello and welcome to my channel. So my name is Georgia and I am currently working in France as a language assistant. So I'm here in Embrun in the Alps. It's a very small town and behind me there is snow everywhere. It is incredible. And I just wanted to talk a bit about the program that I'm doing and how I got into doing this. So I studied media and communications and marketing, so completely unrelated to teaching English. And I graduated in 2019 in July. So at the start of 2019, when I knew that I was going to be graduating that year, I was trying to think about like what I wanted to do afterwards. And I was already working in marketing and I had the opportunity to go into full-time work. But I kind of felt like I really wanted to travel first and have more like a gap year, I guess, because I hadn't really had that before. I had done like a lot of solo traveling before and I really loved that. So I traveled a lot in Southeast Asia and I'd also been on exchange to France when I was in high school. So I decided to apply for this language assistant program and I found out about it from my university. They had a website where they listed all the different exchange programs that you can do, and I saw this one and I thought it'd be good for me because I had studied French in high school and I really wanted to improve my language skills, and the program was for 7 months, so I thought that was like a good time period because it wasn't too long but it was long enough that I could really get to experience the culture. So if you're from America, the program is called Tapif. In Australia it doesn't really have a name, but you apply through the government of Canberra and that's how you do the application. So if you just search language assistant program, it will come up in Google and you'll be able to find it, but I'll link the link so that you can find it more easily if you want to apply. So anyway, I actually didn't apply on time. I applied late because it was like a week before the closing date and I was super indecisive about whether I wanted to do it or not. And I ended up deciding to do it, and then I got to the application bit where it was like, you need a teacher who says that you have the language abilities to do the program. So you have to be level B2 to do the program, so it's like intermediate level. So I got in contact with my teacher from high school and she filled out the document for me, but by the time I got it back it was late and the application had closed, so I thought that I wouldn't be able to do it. But luckily the guy who was organising the program, he saw that my application was half finished and he called me and he was like, if you still want to send it through, you can send it through, and then if someone drops out you can get their spot. So someone did end up dropping out, so I found out a bit later than everyone else that I would be coming to France. And the way it works, when you do your application, you put in 3 preferences of the area you would like to be in, and they're pretty like broad areas. So I was placed into the Aix-Marseille area. So in my head I was like, okay, I'll be living in Marseille. I didn't really think about the region and that the region encompassed also all the way up to Briançon, which is in the Alps, and Embrun, where I'm living now, which is like an hour down and also like in the Alps. So anyway, I was thinking, yeah, okay, I'll be living in Marseille. And then they send your arrêté after that, so arrêté de nomination, and that tells you, that's like your contract for work. And on that it had written Embrun, and I was like, where is this? So I typed into Google and then I see this little tiny town, 6,000 people in the Alps, in the southern Alps of France, and I was like, oh my god, where am I going? So I was actually really excited. Like, I was kind of nervous because I was like, this is like a really small town and it's like not at all what I expected. So in Australia I live in Perth and there's 2 million people and I live near the beach and it's like flat. So I've basically done like a 180. I'm going to the complete opposite. It's like small town, mountains everywhere, snow. It gets down to like -15 degrees Celsius, so like, it gets really cold here. And our winters in Australia in Perth are like 15 degrees positive. So I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be so different. And I've now been here doing this program for 3.5 months. So I'm like halfway through. And like, it's been such like a whirlwind of experiences, but it has been so great and I really wanted to share those experiences. So for people who are applying in the future, and if you have questions or wonder what it's like, hopefully this will be a little bit helpful. So what are some of the hardest parts about doing this program? I would say the hardest part, or one of the challenges, was the fact that you don't get to pick your town. So as I mentioned, you're just placed in a town and that's where you get. So if you don't like the idea of that, this might not be the program for you. Maybe you're better off doing like au pair or workaways or something like that, where you get to pick where you're actually going. But although that has been a really hard adjustment, and like the first few days I was here, I was like, what have I done? Like, I hate it here. It's so small. Like, there's nothing to do. That was kind of my mindset. Now I've kind of really come to appreciate it, and the way I think of it now is that this is such a unique experience that I would never otherwise have. Like, I didn't even know this town existed. I would never pick it to visit if I was here traveling. And I think that is so cool, that you get to have a complete unique experience that you'd never otherwise have. And like, you'd never pick to come here, but you get to live here and like live like a local and everything. Sorry, there is like a car pulling up. And as well, like, one of the awesome parts about being in a small town is that like everyone here has been so friendly. So for example, I wanted to try skiing, and like the teacher sent out an email to everyone, all of the other teachers, asking if they could lend me ski gear, and they all got together and gave me ski gear so that I don't have to rent it. As well, it's been really good for learning the language. So I find here that most people don't speak much English, and that's been pretty good because it means that I'm forced to actually practice my French. So if you're in Paris, everyone will probably speak English, and I've heard that as soon as they hear your accent when you're speaking French, they sometimes just switch over to French. So you've really got to make sure that you stick to speaking French if that is a goal that you want to improve. Okay, so I guess on the topic of languages, another difficulty that you face is obviously like the language barrier and having to do things in a second language. If you think about it, like, you get here and you don't have anything. So you don't have your phone SIM card, you don't have an apartment, you don't have a bank account, and you have to organise all of that in French, which is quite daunting. So for me, even being on the phone in English, like, I hate answering the phone. I hate talking to people on the phone. Like, if I see a number that I don't know, I won't answer. And while I've been here, I've had to organise, like, talk to a landlord about getting an apartment in French. Like, yesterday I got a call for my house insurance, because I had to organise that as well. And I got a call and they wanted to survey me, so I did a survey in French. And like, although it's really daunting, it's also kind of like really satisfying when you're like, wow, I've just accomplished this. Like, it might not seem like a big thing, but organising an apartment, getting your bank set up, all that kind of stuff, like, it can be really stressful when you first get here. But I think as well, it really helps you build a tougher skin. And now I feel like going back, like when I go back home, like, I'm not scared to do anything anymore. Like, I'm not scared to speak my mind, whereas before I'm always like a bit hesitant, like don't want to say no to people if there's something that I want to do. But now it's like, you just have to learn to speak your mind. Like, if there's something that you're not happy with, like even if it's something at your school, like a teacher wants you to take half of the class by yourself and the teacher's like not there, and if you don't feel comfortable with that, like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to have responsibility of the students without the teacher there. So you really have to learn to speak your mind, and sometimes learn how to say no, because it can be difficult, but it is important for your own happiness. So that is as well like a bit of adjustment, and like cultural differences as well, even with the simplest of things. Like, for example, I went to the supermarket here, and it was like one of the first days I was here, like first time going to the supermarket. And the supermarkets here are massive, like compared to Australia anyway. They are like they have everything there. It's insane. And in Australia, when we go to the supermarket and like you buy your fruit and vegetables, like the cashier weighs it. So this was really awkward. I had like, there was a huge line behind me, and I had like put all my stuff. I got to the front of the queue and she was like scanning my stuff. Then she gets to the vegetables and she was like, you're supposed to weigh it and put a sticker on it with the weight. And then I was like, I didn't realise. And then she was like, you have to go back and weigh it. So like, I had to grab all my fruit, and I had like one broccoli and like one carrot and like one capsicum. So it was like all these individual fruits and vegetables, and then I had to go like out of the line, and everyone was giving me like the worst death stares, and I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know, it's different here. Like in Australia they just weigh it for you. So like even little things like that can kind of like throw you off a bit and make you feel like a bit, I don't know, a bit uneasy. But it's just like differences you have to get used to sometimes. But I think it's like really good for, you know, improving your own confidence and ability to deal with anything. It's kind of like when you're traveling as well, like you learn to deal with shit situations, but you get through it and you're like, hey, I made it out of that. Speaking of languages as well, I think just on the topic of improving French, one thing I found that's been really good here is putting on the French TV every night. And when I was first here, like, I found I didn't really understand much of it. I would like understand a few sentences here and there, but it wasn't like I could get the whole gist of it. And now after 3 months, I have begun to be able to watch TV and understand everything that's happening, and it's just like the most satisfying feeling ever, when it just like starts to click and you're like, oh my god, I'm actually like, I have actually learned something. It's so awesome. So I guess like a really cool thing about this program is that there's so many other assistants doing it, so like you're not alone at all, even if you're in a small town where there's not many other people. So in my town, I'm really lucky that there's 2 other language assistants. So there's an Italian assistant and a Spanish assistant, and I live with the Italian assistant, and that has made a really big difference for me because I like being around people all the time, and I like having someone that I can talk to, like, who's doing the same thing as me. So as well with the program, because there's language assistants everywhere and like you're all in the same situation, like you've all left your family and friends, you don't know anyone here, everyone is so open to just like making friends and like hanging out together. So for example, if you're visiting another town in France, like going to Nice for the weekend, I see people all the time, they just post in the group like, hey, any other assistants in Nice want to meet up? And then you'll be able to meet up with assistants who live in that area that you don't even know, but then you just become friends instantly. So that's really awesome part that I love about this. It's just like the meeting people, and I always think, you know, it's the people that makes the experience, not the place. And I just think that's so true, because if you're surrounded with great people and you make the most of the situation and like you get out there, even if you're in a small town, like doing stuff like sports, because here sports is like a really big thing, like everyone does skiing, everyone is always like running, and there's all these different fitness groups. So if you join those and make the most of what you can, like you get so much more out of it. Like I've joined a Pilates and a gym class, and that's been really good as well, because the classes are in French, so I'm learning all of the body parts, like different muscles and stuff, in French, and talking to the women in the class in French. So it's really great way, I think, is put in as much as you can and you'll get so much more out of the program. The other really awesome thing about this program is the free time. So you work 12 hours per week, and this will be split up throughout the week, however your school's determined. So I am assigned to 1 school, but most people are usually assigned to 2 or 3. So it can be up to three different schools, and it'll be in around the same area. It might be a little bit further out in a different town, but around the area. And then you have 12 hours, but it can be split up throughout the week. So you might have only 2 hours one day and 5 hours the next day. It really varies. And what you do in those classes also really varies just on what the teacher needs from you. So it might be doing a presentation on a topic, it might be just helping out the students with their classwork, it could be taking half of the class and doing an activity with them, or also like doing oral practice and grading orals. So I teach students who are aged around 13, 14 in middle school to high school, like 17, 18, and BTS tourism, which is like after high school, it's like a tourism degree. So I do all of those. So I have quite a mixture of ages. And I find my favorite ages actually like the 13, 14-year-olds, because they're so cute and they just crack me up. Like they say the funniest things. They're so hilarious. But back on the topic of free time, so because you're only doing 12 hours per week, you do have a lot of free time. So that means you do get time as well to travel a lot, because for me, I have Friday off anyway, so I get a long weekend. So usually I try and go away and just try and explore different towns in France and really try and make the most of being in Europe, because it is far from Australia and there is so much to see here. As well as the free time during the week, you get a lot of holidays. So I was so shocked when I saw the holidays schedule. Within the 7 months of being here, there's 4 lots of 2-week breaks. So every month and a half is holidays. So you get here and start on the 1st of October, and then you do 2 weeks of observation where you're just observing the classes, like seeing what the teacher does. And then after those 2 weeks, you get 2 weeks holiday. So for those holidays, I went to Germany and Prague as well. And that was like really awesome. I had such a great time. And then I came back, did another month and a half, and then I had Christmas holidays and I went to London. And now I'm back again, and then in February I will have holidays again, and I'm planning on going to Budapest, and then after that I'm back for another month and a half, and then I get another 2 weeks holidays over Easter. So it's just like, it's so great because they sort of understand that you do want to travel, you do want to see more, and you're here for the experience. So I find like the teachers are really understanding of that and really encouraging of like, yeah, go travel, like recommending things that you can do. So that is like definitely like one of the best parts, is like all the free time. But as well, you've got to make the most of it, because otherwise you'll just be bored at home, not doing anything. So like if you're doing this program, like really I think make the most of it and try and travel, and you can meet up with other assistants as well and like go travel with them. I know a lot of people have done that. I've mainly just traveled by myself, but I really enjoy solo traveling, and I find I always meet people at hostels as well, so I find that like to be really, really awesome experience for me. Definitely one of the best parts. So that's like mainly like what this program encompasses. Let me know if you do have any specific things that you want me to cover, or specific questions if you're thinking about doing this program, and I'll try and like help answer if I can, because I know when I was thinking of doing this program, like I was so excited and I just wanted to know everything I could. I was searching my town on Google Maps and like seeing where I'd be at school, and as well I think it's just really good to get the opinion of like someone who's actually done the program. So let me know if you have questions, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!